Hello, we are live. Welcome to another Ask Your Mentor Anything live. We are currently live on YouTube, Facebook, publicly, and the Mentoring for Translators Facebook group. Thank you for joining us live. And today we have two special guests, and thank you so much, ladies, for joining me. And so now we'll try to pronounce the last name. So definitely we have Francesca and Giada, and is Francesca Miglietta. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Perfect. And we have Giada Gerotto, no?
Perfect.
Amazing.
Well
Welcome.
done.
Thank you so much for joining us live. And our topic is, as you see here in the banner, people behind the roles. And we have two guests because we're going to talk for two different roles from two different aspects. And if you have any kind of questions about project management, vendor management, the actual position, anything you would like to ask, either as a freelance translator or as an upcoming, you would like to become a project manager or vendor manager, or any kind of question, definitely use the comments below. You will see this video. Drop your questions there or anything that you would like to contribute to the discussion, and we will be able to see it live. And Francesca and Giada, they're going to reply to all of your questions, hopefully. So first of all, say hello. Would really love to see who is watching us live here. So use the comments below and let us know where are you watching us from. I'm really curious always to see people from all around the world to join us live. Say hello. And let's start with actually introducing the two guests. So if you would like to start, Francesca, with you, your background, like to introduce yourself to those that they do not know you already.
Yes. Thank you. And hello, everyone. I'm currently working as a project manager and project management team lead. So this is what I've been doing in the last 4 or 5 years. And this is actually my first experience in the localization industry. I started after university. It was a bit random, actually. I studied translation and interpreting, and I actually wanted to be a translator. And then I found this internship at Creative Words, where I'm working right now as a project manager, which was a completely new role for me. I didn't know what a project manager does and what are the skills of a project manager. So I learned everything like from scratch.
Right.
And then,
I come
I
up with
mean,
so many questions right now. I don't want to interrupt you, but I get so many questions like,
yeah.
why did you accept such an internship in a position that you didn't know or you didn't have in your mind? So what was the reason that made you? But we can reply later on such questions if you would like. I don't want, I don't
Sure.
want to interrupt you. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. Well, yes, I started, as I was saying, it was a bit random. I just found this internship and then I became interested in this job, and now I'm really enjoying this, and I wouldn't be, I wouldn't like to be a translator anymore, because I found out that this is what I think I'm good at and what I
Wow.
like to do. So, yeah. This
Amazing.
was a bit strange at the beginning because I didn't know anything about project management, because this is not something that you learn at university usually. So it was a bit new for me. And this is maybe the main reason why many people don't actually know about project management. And I think it's like, I mean, it's a bit the same situation for vendor management. So
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know
definitely the
if,
same situation. I doubt that there are studies to study something like that, especially for our industry. But you can tell me both of you your opinion on that. And also because I'm recruiting, and I was telling you behind the scenes that I have a trouble. I'm looking for a project manager, but people they do not even know the difference between vendor manager. Some people, they do not even know the existence of such a role, vendor manager. So definitely those are things to discuss. We have enough time. So is there anything else you would like to add, Francesca, about your role and your background so far?
Well, no, I think that's basically what it is. I studied
Very
translation and then I
interesting.
started working
Yeah.
as a project manager, and now I'm also like managing the team of project managers here at Creative Words. And this is another challenge for me,
Wow.
let's say.
Wow. Wow, amazing. So we can discuss a lot about that in a minute. So that's a very interesting story because you start as a translator, but sometimes life takes us where we should be, and that's very interesting. And that's definitely will arise many questions later on. So Giada, you would like to introduce yourself to those that they are watching us right now,
Yeah,
or the
sure.
recording, the replay? Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Virginia.
Thank
Um,
you.
I am working at Creative Words with Francesca, and I'm the vendor manager there. Or actually, my job title is community manager because we're putting a lot
Exactly.
of stress on the relationship with our vendors. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, how did I become a vendor manager? Well, I also studied translation. I wanted to be a translator, and I actually was for like a couple of years while studying. Um, then I graduated, and then at some point I was hired by a major LSP as an in-house reviser. Uh, then while there, after 1 year or so, I got promoted to quality management. And then in a couple more years, I was literally thrown in at the deep end and asked if I wanted to be part of vendor management. And that wasn't really asking me, so I had to. And if you had asked me where I wouldn't want to be, that would be vendor management. So
Really?
I wasn't, yes, totally. So I wasn't really happy when they asked me, to be honest. But then I started doing it, and the more I actually did it, the more I fell in love with the job. As you were saying, Virginia, it's really not something you get to know from the outside. It's very difficult to explain what a vendor manager does. It's not explained enough. As you were saying, like there are no studies about that, and these positions are not even presented in the academy. So I'm even having trouble finding trainees now at Creative Words. I'm always on the lookout for mandatory internships in community as a community coordinator. Um, and I can hardly find people, and I get a lot of replies like, "No, I'm studying translation. I want to do something that's close to what I'm studying." I'm like, so what? What am I doing? Like baking pastry? I don't know. It's like, but that's fun. It's because people really don't see the value in this role because they don't know it. So
Yeah, and you
I'm.
still, yeah, while you are describing that aspect of this topic, I have also the other, I've seen also the other, if we can say, point of view of this topic, like people who are studying translation or even linguists or something else,
Mhm,
they would love to become project managers or they would love, but sometimes they don't even have the skills. And I know that you're talking about traineeship, so you mean that you're training those people to become or to undertake such a role. But definitely for me, there should be a balance in between. Okay, we see the option that you say here, the aspect of the topic, like people they do not want or they do not know what it is, so they want only to
mhm,
become translators. And I see also while recruiting right now and interviewing interesting people, interesting parties into that position, to actually want to undertake such a position without knowing exactly what is the role about or what are the
mhm,
responsibilities of such a role. And that comes along with no experience in that, which means okay, they might be willing, but also you need some knowledge. And that also both of you can tell us, because it's something really different, as Francesca already mentioned and you mentioned, is not translation itself. So even if someone, okay, have studied translation like the ones that you are looking for, doesn't mean quite that they have the knowledge or the skills to undertake such a role. Is that correct? Do you agree?
totally, totally.
So I didn't want to interrupt you. So you would like to add something about your background before we go
No,
to
that's
some.
just it. I mean, that in January, no, in April 2020, I moved to Creative Words.
Mhm.
Like all my previous experience was at the big LSP I was mentioning before, and then in April 2020, I started this marvelous adventure at Creative Words, where vendor management is completely different from what I used to do before. So that's
So you approached the company, is that correct?
I did.
Okay.
Yes, I was looking for something completely different. I was at like one of the top 25 LSPs, so huge in size, and I felt that the work of the vendor manager would be different at a smaller company, and that was exactly the type of experience I was looking for.
Exactly.
So I
Sometimes
reached out
working
to
for a
them.
small company has the benefits as well. So it's not only going after
It
the big
does.
companies, also medium and small size companies that can give you opportunities and learning opportunities that you might not be able to find in bigger. So thank you so much, ladies, for sharing your background and how you are right now at this position. So usually we start with the most common questions from my mentees to be asked to the people, the guests that we have here in the live. But since you are not freelancers, we can start only with questions. We can cover questions that apply to your own situation. Like you mentioned already, I think, Francesca, that's your first job. But usually the question is, how did you find your first job, either as an in-house or a freelancer? That really doesn't matter. It's really interesting because we might have at the audience people who are interested to becoming project managers or vendor managers. So it would be really interesting to find out, how did you start out in the translation industry in general?
Well, yes, it was. I think my situation was a bit strange, let's say. It's not so common because I was actually graduating from university and I got this offer from the CEO of our company because he had just founded Creative Words. It was almost a new company. When I started, there
When was
were
that?
no
How many
project
years?
managers.
No.
Sorry?
How many years we're discussing about? Like, when was that
It
approximately?
was a bit more than 4 years ago. So Creative Words uh, was less than a years old, let's
Wow.
say.
You're from.
Yeah,
You are one of the founding, if we can say, members and
yeah,
collaborators.
She's a
yeah, kind
pillar.
of.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, I was actually the first project manager here. So I was offered this internship and I decided to take it because I wanted to start something in the localization industry. I wanted to learn something and then to become a translator. But this was for me a way to learn something about this word. Um, then I realized that I was actually loving this job, so I never left. But for example, my colleagues started later in different ways. Some of them, for example, one of our project managers was a freelance translator for like 10 years, and then she decided to change her life, let's say. And she applied for a job here as a project manager. We had some interns who started as interns and then that we helped to train, which is easier when there's a team of project managers, of course, because there are some seniors and then some new project managers that you can help learning job. So yeah, there are different ways of starting this job, and in our
Yeah.
case, yeah.
No, no. I was about to sum up what you said. So there are ways you can start. So if you would like to take an opportunity of an internship, I would definitely do that if I was like a newly graduate. Or also, you mentioned one story of someone being 10 years in one specific job like freelancer, but then there is the opportunity to turn that around even after being 10 years. So that was, I would really like to highlight two different stories, and that really can be motivation or inspiration to the people who are watching us.
Yes, definitely. I mean, all of us have like a translation background, let's say. For me, it was just university, what I studied at university. But for example, this colleague of ours, she's been a freelance translator for a lot of years. So she already knew how this word works. She knew she had a specific background that helped her to like learn how to be a project manager. She had to deal with project managers herself. So she, for example, she's quite good at working with freelancers because she knows how it is to be on the other side. So we have similar but different backgrounds, and this helps because being a team, you can exchange like point of views and different skills. So yeah.
I was about to ask both of you, for example, if the linguistic background, the translation background is a must, is something that you require before you apply, like as a vendor manager or project manager in such a specific industry. Because in my opinion, right now, trying to find the right people for my team as well, I find it harder, for example, to hire someone with project management background in a different industry like banks, rather than train someone who has been a translator or freelance translator for some years to learn the project management process of my translation company. What do you think, Francesca, since you mentioned that? And then we will ask Giada, definitely.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, a linguistic or translation background can be useful because, I mean, you know what you're talking about, and you already know things
The
related to, I don't know,
deadlines,
cut tools,
deadlines, the
deadlines.
price.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, you already know something about the industry, but still you need to learn the specific skills that you need for being a project manager. And I think that some of them cannot always be, I mean, you cannot always learn all of them. I mean, there's some people say that project management is a sort of attitude. So I mean, it's more about the like soft skills that you have, and you just need to train rather than the background that you have. I mean, in my experience, all the project managers here actually have like a linguistic, in some way, background. But I don't think
There is
that
a
other
reason, I
people.
suppose. There is a reason why.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Usually it's easier, and it's easier because
Exactly.
people from other backgrounds don't really want to work in a translation company, I think. I mean, it's not so common, but it can happen, and I
To be honest,
don't
I've
think
had
that could.
applications. To be honest, I have had applications from people from other industries, to actually come to an interview with me from the project manager position that I have opened. And to be honest, it was my hesitance to say, like, how to train someone who has been like 10 years in the finance industry to become a project manager at the translation industry. I need to actually train them from A, B, C, like everything, how we charge, for example, translation projects, what are the rates usually, how we set a specific deadline, what is the turnaround that the translator might have, statistically. Those are things that they save you a lot of time if you can find the right balance, with the soft skills that you mentioned. Someone having already a background, and you already mentioned that everyone working in your company, the company that you are working as well, they have such a background. And also your studies, I include them as a background, linguistic, because you were not like an accountant that turned a project manager at a translation company. You had translation studies. That's my main concern discussing this topic. I don't know, you would like to add something to this?
I kind of agree with everything you've been saying. I must admit, I've been thinking over whether having someone in vendor management with a different background could be an added value. Because sometimes, yeah, well, I told you I have a translation background myself, and I've always worked with people with a translation background. So I can't really tell for sure. But sometimes I see myself struggling with reporting, for example. Like reporting is crucial to vendor management when you're doing it with some sort of consciousness and with strategic targets. And I can tell that sometimes I'm really stuck because it's not my cup of tea, it's like working with numbers and identifying trends and figuring out how you can improve something based on data. That's not easy. So sometimes I've been wondering whether somebody from, I don't know, with a statistics background, for example, might be a valuable asset. Of course, I don't think that somebody with a statistics background would be interested in that, but I mean, why
You never
not?
know.
You never know. Maybe
But
there's
for
someone
me,
who would.
yeah, Giada, before you actually express here your opinion, I was 100% sure, at least for the vendor management part, that they should be translators. Because if you, like, as you mentioned, you are a community manager. How to manage a community better if you are not already a part of that community, if you at least feel a part of that community. So for me, it would be very strange to see someone with statistics background to be a manager of a community and to call them manager of a community manager, you know what I mean? In a community only of other linguists and translators.
Yeah, that's an
So for me, it
interesting
was like,
perspective. So
yeah,
probably that's linked to the
yeah,
fact that vendor management has a lot of different aspects in it. So there's the vendor management, as in, okay, I need to keep a good relationship with the freelancers, and I need to be able to to build a sense of bonding with them and to foster their engagement. And then that's probably something you can do better with a background in translation, as you said, or at least what I really think is important for that part is having good communication skills. Now, if I had to tell you, Virginia, one thing that is needed to be a good vendor manager, that's good communication, effective communication, and persuasive communication. That's something
yeah.
that's
Can I add
really needed.
two skills? I think that there are two skills that they should apply also for the project manager position and the vendor. The communication, for me, it's a must, either as a project manager or vendor manager. Communication. You cannot be a project manager without having communication. And negotiation skills, even more for the project manager, maybe the negotiation skills. At least
Why
I'm
that?
looking for those skills. Yeah.
Why that? Why do you say more for the project managers? That's interesting.
Negotiation skills,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 100% sure. I'm 100% sure that the project manager should have in order to negotiate with an end client if that's the person who comes,
Okay.
if there is no salesperson. So if the
Okay.
company, the project
Okay.
manager comes into direct contact with the end client, they need to negotiate deadlines. In your part, okay, as a vendor manager, unless you are also managing the translators during the project, like if not the project manager is not the person who is responsible to actually managing the translators as well, the deadlines and so on, yes, in that case you need negotiation skills in order to negotiate with the translators this time,
Mm-hmm.
the rates, the deadlines and so on, everything that needs to be negotiated so as to come to a result that it's profitable for the company, also good for the client and good for the translator. So we need that balance. So that's why I have in my mind that skill for project management. But yes, I suppose that's also one skill that
Yeah.
I see in the vendor manager position.
Yeah. That's definitely needed, but that's something you can achieve, I think, through having a good idea of what persuasive communication is. I mean, at least for my experience, that's just my way of doing vendor management. I've been building my what I call my vendor management over time, because I'm not like a hardball negotiator. I don't like going there and pushing translators for half a cent or whatever. But I try to leverage the bonding I was mentioning. So I try to leverage the opportunity and to wear their shoes and try and see how we can make it work. So in the case of vendor managers, I think negotiating, like being a strong negotiator, is good. Being someone who can create a connection with the translator and feel them and that's still better, because that helps even when negotiating. I mean, it's much
Then you
easier.
come, then you come to my words that you need to be a
Yeah.
translator, because I doubt I cannot bring the image of a statistic person like a background to feel, to have that feeling for other colleagues and translators. So definitely, I really like the term that
Yeah.
you are using, persuasive. But then it comes the next question. Okay, what is exactly that a vendor manager is doing, and what is exactly a project manager? But now we're going to get into that. So wait, before we go to that, I would like to ask you how you found your job, because you didn't answer that question. Francesca already answered that.
Yeah,
So
so
just
I just applied.
yeah.
I was freelancing. I wasn't really satisfied with what I was doing because I had basically 2 clients only. I wasn't getting very good rates. I wasn't feeling like that should be what I wanted to do in my life. So I started applying for in-house positions, mainly because I wanted to work in-house at a company. Like I wanted to. I don't think starting off as a freelance translator is always a good idea. I mean, it didn't work for me, at least, because I felt I was missing the big picture. Like I was focused on my little word, but I didn't know how it worked at an LSP. I didn't know who the people I was talking to were doing, and that I didn't like. So I started applying for like several jobs, and when I got it, when I got my job at Explanation, it was actually fun because I applied when like past the when the deadline was passed for the job offer, and they were looking for someone with Italian native, English, French, and German, and preferably German. And I don't speak German at all. So I applied and said, I don't know if I fit because I don't speak German. You want somebody who speaks German, but yeah, here I am. And in the end, I mean, they were happy. I had to take a test translation and a test revision because I was applying as an in-house linguist. And yeah, and then they apparently liked the tests, so we started working together.
And that's a company that they forced you, if you can say, they suggested you
Exactly.
to become a vendor manager, so you
Exactly.
remained there. So that's a great story as well. That's a great inspirational story for me, and can be a motive for other colleagues here. So you might start as a freelance translator, but you never know where that will end up. And definitely, it's also a very inspirational story that you started out as a freelancer, but then you applied to a position. You applied even if the job
Yeah.
application was not on time, so had already closed. There was, if we can say, German as a necessary skill that you should have, and you didn't, but you still applied. So for me, those are lessons, okay, for all the people that they are starting out, or they would like to restart their career. So to take those opportunities if they see them, and even if they don't click all the ticks, if we can say, they might have at this job application, they don't have 100% the skills, if we can say, they're missing one in your case. Or if the application job has been closed, then definitely there is a reason, okay? And like such stories, they should inspire us to go after our dreams or whatever we think that is for us the next step. And you never know, you might start as a freelance, become an in-house, and then you end up like as a vendor manager, as Giada. So you never know. For those that they're starting out and they're coming to me and they're telling me, I don't know what is my specialization, I don't know what to do, then your stories are really inspiring. So you never give up, and you never know what will be the next opportunity for you in your career in the future. So thank you so much, ladies, for sharing that. And I hope that we inspire many colleagues out there, either starting out or restarting out. So you never know. But I think all of us were very curious to find out what is the role exactly, okay, if we can say. And I would really love to know on an everyday basis, okay? You wake up in the morning, you go to the office, or you, Jed, I think you work from home remotely,
I
is
do.
that correct?
Yeah.
So how daily, okay, work routine would look like for someone who is starting out and they would really like to find out, okay, if that's for them, or how does this look like? And definitely, after your answers, we would really like to find the differences, okay? Because I know that small companies, they have a project manager only who undertakes also the vendor managers' responsibilities, we can say, and the tasks. But as you grow as a company, you definitely need to have 2 separate roles. And when I would like today, at least, if someone can live with one new knowledge, something they learned out of this life, to be exactly, okay, what is the difference and why one company needs both roles, which means 2 different people to do this at least. So you would like to start, Francesca, with your routine or your role in the company?
Well, yes. It's always difficult to explain what a
Yeah,
project manager
that's why
does.
we're doing the live. Yeah.
My, yeah, my mother doesn't even know, I think. So, um,
For
yeah,
translators is the same, though. Our mothers, I doubt
yeah.
it, but for translators, the same.
Well, what we do basically is we coordinate every step of a translation project, meaning every request that we get from our clients. So my daily routine is, I mean, the first thing that I do is check my emails. We get tons of those every day. And we need to check which new requests that we got from our clients, and we need to prioritize them. This is a very important skill for a project manager, being able to prioritize, because you always have a lot of things to manage at the same time. So you need to be able to understand what you need to do, what you need to start with, and then you need to do everything, but you need
Prioritization.
to be able to prioritize. Yes. So
So
when we
just to
get new,
interrupt you are the contact person of the translation company with the end client.
yes, yes,
Okay, and by
basically, yes. What we do is we are sort of we are the contact points for the end clients, and for the different subjects involved in a translation project. So translators, reviewers, or I don't know, the graphic team, whoever is involved in a translation project. So what
suppliers,
we
you
do,
mean? Mm-hmm.
yeah. And that is why communication is really important, because basically what we do is we communicate with everyone. We put everyone in contact with each other, but we are the only common point of contact for everyone. And this is why Giada and the vendor manager in general is really, it is a really key element, let's say, in a company, because as you were saying before, when we were a smaller company, when there were less project managers here, we actually had to do some part of the vendor management job. So we were selecting ourselves the translators or reviewers for a project, for a series of projects. We were like,
You did that before a vendor manager exists. Is that
yes,
correct? You mentioned that. Okay.
yes. So, I mean, of course, we weren't doing that very well, because it was not our job, and we didn't really have the time to do that. So what usually happens, I think, in such cases is that the project managers working at the same company are always fighting for the resources. I mean, we just had like a bunch of translators, and we were using, let's say, them for every project, every client. And of course, this is not really working on a long-term basis.
The
So
bigger the projects, or the bigger the clients, the more complex they become. Especially if they included many language combinations, which means many different
yes,
translators, reviewers, quality assurance. So
yeah.
many steps. And I was interviewing people, and when I was describing the steps, I was asked, "Are you doing all those things on your own?" So, yeah, people might ask you, Francesca, the same. You were doing this on your own. I think that involves many skills in order to be able to actually successfully complete such projects and have everyone satisfied, if we can say, from all parts of a project. So amazing. Anything else you would like to add about your responsibilities or your everyday life as a project manager?
No, just as you were saying, you need to like keep everyone satisfied, and I mean, our main job is to keep the clients happy, of course. But in order to do so, you also need to keep the people you're working with happy. So this was actually not very easy and very feasible when we didn't have a person managing, the community of people working with us. And like, I think it was a couple of years ago, I met many other project managers for different companies, and many of them didn't have a vendor manager with them. And they were so impressed with the idea of having a different person, a different role taking care of this. Because of course, everyone in this way can focus on their specific role, their specific job, and this helps keeping everyone a bit happier.
But that really comes when the company grows. As you mentioned already, when a company starts out or is growing, usually one or two project managers, they are doing everything, like from handling the projects and the communication with the end clients, plus the management of the actual project with the translators. As the company grows, usually, then the vendor management position is coming inside, and now Giada is going to tell us what that includes. But for me, it's really surprising. I'm going to repeat that the people I'm interviewing, they're not aware of such a role, Giada. I don't know if you feel that's exclusive your own, but definitely is a role that only big companies or people working for big companies they're aware of, or at least I don't know. What is your opinion? I'm sure your mom doesn't know. I'm sure that your mom doesn't understand.
Yeah, well, there's a lovely article on Slater that's called "So You're a Vendor Manager. What exactly do you do?" So, and that's on Slater. So,
can you share in the comments later on?
Yeah. I'll do that. Yes. But the thing with vendor management is that it's doing a lot of things. So it's really difficult to tell. And I was thinking, when Francesca was saying what her routine is, I can't really tell. I don't think I have a routine in my days. So it's really. I'll completely do that. I'll completely do that. What I meant is just that there's no one day that's like the following one. So days are really different, and that's based on a lot of factors. First, and with that, I'm also linking to what we were mentioning before, like the background you need. There's one part of vendor management that's based on building a strategy. Like that's the kind of vendor management I'm doing at Creative Words now. That's not what I used to do at the previous company, because there was like a more hierarchical setup. So there was someone above me who was setting the strategy, and then we were just taking care of different tasks. But even then, there was somebody setting the strategy, and then there was a team of 5 people, and each of us was entrusted with one specific part of vendor management. So somebody was taking care of recruitment, for example. Somebody was taking care of building the relationship with the team. Somebody was taking care of supporting the PMs. Somebody was taking care of the quality management part. To me, that wasn't really effective, to be honest. I'm not a big fan of having this task separation, because I think you miss the big picture. That is the only added value of having a VM. So I think what the VM brings to the company is the big picture about translators, the pool of your translators, both in terms of recruitment. So you need to know who is there to be able to recruit the right people. You need to know what's going on in the company to be able to recruit the right people. And in terms of supporting the PM, so okay, we've got this project and we might need that person, but that person is already working with that other PM on that other project. So that's part of the big picture you need to have, and you need to give the PMs. So that's what I think is the added value, and that's something I think you miss when you divide the tasks. So going back to what I was doing, what I am doing, on a daily basis, I'm taking care of recruitment of translators when we need some. I'm taking care of onboarding of translators. So the testing phase and sharing training materials, putting them in touch with the right people. I'm taking care of supporting the PMs for special requests. Like, of course, I am maintaining a database, a translation management system that we're all working in. So the PMs can rely on the database to get first-hand information. However, I need, of course, to maintain the database as effectively as possible to be able to give them the best source of information. And we have a lot of direct contact with the PMs for special projects, or if they have if they need to add somebody to an account, like to a team for a given account, or whenever we've got a new project from a new customer coming in, we have a briefing together to understand who would be the right resources for that project. So there's all this ops support type of work that I do, and that's very reactive, and that's what changes my routine every day, because there might be days where they've got no requests for me.
Yeah,
Well,
that was my question. Like, whenever I'm asked about, and I have that in my mind, adding as a role, I was thinking, will there be work enough for such a role? Or should the company be at a specific size and hire so as to be able to hire and include such a position?
So I think there's a lot of growing interest for vendor management these days, and I'm having a feeling that like small to medium-sized companies are getting more interested towards the role of the vendor manager. Now, I want to refer to the theory of the translation company by Renato and Tucker Johnson from NIMSI. In their book, at some point they say that vendor management is the meat and potato of an LSP. And when they say that, they I think they list 3 functions for which it's key to have somebody in-house, and vendor management is one of those. So I'm not sure whether it makes sense for a very small company to have a vendor manager. But I'm pretty sure the growth of the company would benefit from having a vendor manager since the very beginning.
Yeah, and I think also the growth depends on that role as well. It really will help a company to grow if they invest in such a role as well. And they can also have the project manager focusing on their tasks and helping the company to grow from their aspects and their tasks view, and the vendor manager to help the company to grow by onboarding the right people, expanding the team, and also you mentioned building the team and supporting the PMs and the quality assurance as well, because
yes,
you help the company to grow that way. That at least my understanding based on the book that you just referred, and I have got it, but I didn't read it yet. I need to time to read that book. But thank you for mentioning those resources and, of course, your point of view. I know that some people might ask, so if one day you don't have any tasks, what are you focusing on? Like,
I wish there were days where I didn't have any tasks at all. Like it happens that I don't get any like
requirement or
how to
something
say
like that.
ad hoc tasks. So any requests from the PMs that really need to be handled within the day, and ideally that's the direction we're trying to work towards. So ideally what I need to do is enabling the PMs to become independent as much as possible by supporting them and having the right resources, having the right information in the database so that they can rely on that only. And that's what they do for regular tasks. So
independent, you mean independent when it comes to you and your role?
When it comes to translate to finding resources for their projects.
Okay, because they have the database there. So independent.
Exactly.
You mean only to depend on the information they find in the database, so they don't need any more help.
Exactly, that they don't need live support, so nothing happens if I'm not there for 1 week. So I think the vendor manager ideally needs to work in the background. But on the other hand, it's really an added value, I think, for our company that we have this sort of very open communication between me, because I'm the only one in the team, and the PMs. Like we have weekly one-to-ones. We have constant, like daily contacts. Like we talk every day, and we exchange opinions every day. And I'm really dependent on them for quite a few things, and they are with me. So it's really like we know we need each other to make it work
You
well,
seem
and
to
that's
you
good.
seem to love so much your position and what you're doing, Giada. But I cannot hold myself asking you, because when you started out in that specific position, you didn't like it. What was the reason? What is the characteristic of this position that really holds you so passionate about, and you really love it, and you keep doing it, and you pursued that position on your own afterwards? So even if in
Yes.
the beginning you didn't like that, at least it was not
Yes.
your decision.
So
Then
my idea about vendor management was like, okay, you're the one who has to negotiate rates. That was my idea of vendor management before doing that, because um, I was working in quality management at that time. I didn't have much contact with the VMs in the company, and that's very strange, to be honest, because I think you should work side by side. And in fact, um, I'm doing both things at the moment, so that's I think it's really part of the same role. It shouldn't be divided. Um, so I had the wrong idea about vendor management, and I thought, okay, you need to talk money all the time,
uh-huh,
and that's still the part of vendor management I like the least. So
uh-huh,
that's probably why. But then I got to know the role more and more, and I thought, okay, so this is a crucial role. Like it's not seen, it's not easy to see that from the outside. But when you're doing that, if you're doing it well, or at least if you're putting effort in it, okay, because I don't want to be presumptuous and say I'm doing it well. No, I just want to say I'm putting a lot of effort in it, and I think the results show, and it's very measurable, and that's something I like a lot. I really like working on targets, and I really like to be able to measure the results of what I'm doing. So that's one thing that holds me passionate of this job.
Right, amazing. So I would ask also Francesca and you, what is the one thing, one task in your daily life, a working routine that you really love and that makes you so passionate? So one thing you mentioned is that is measurable and you see the success of your work. Is that correct, Giada?
Yes.
Okay, and so you, Francesca, what do you think is one thing that makes you so passionate and you really love what you're doing as a project manager? Is one task, is one responsibility, something that you can take? I assume there are more than ones, but if you could say only one.
Well, I mean, my situation was a bit similar to what Jada described. I mean, I had myself a wrong idea about project managing and what a project manager does. Because when I started, my idea was, I mean, I thought I just had to send emails and share files with people. And then I realized that a project manager can really make the difference in a project. I mean, you can, I mean, if I have to think about the one thing that I love the most is the planning part, because you have to be able to plan everything, and you can actually do that in very different ways. And so you have to just adapt to the different situation that you are facing. It can be a different client or a different project or a different team of people working on the project. You can have big volumes to be delivered in a very short time, or
Challenging.
very, yeah, I mean, yes, yeah, that's what I like the most. The
And
thing, I
if you
mean,
can say how you measure the success of your work, like already Jada mentioned, that is immeasurable, the success. If you can share with us one way that is measurable, is it the satisfaction of the client? Is it the profit for the company? Is it, I don't know, how you measure?
well, I mean, it can be related to, I mean, when you keep a client, usually it means that they are happy working with you. So it could be the fact that a client keeps coming to you, but sometimes it's also the fact that, for example, we sometimes we received some really lovely emails from our freelancers, for example, and they said it was really lovely to work with us, and this is something that I really like. I mean, of course, this doesn't mean that a client keeps sending you projects or there's more income for your company, but it's good when people recognize the effort that you put into your job. So it can come from clients, from co-workers, from the freelancers you're working with, but I mean, I think this is the most satisfying aspect of this job.
Amazing. So I would like to ask also, Giada, how you measure your success. You mentioned that it's measurable 100%. So if you can give us one way that you can measure the success of your position or of your work, is it the reporting that you mentioned? Is it numbers? Is it something different?
It depends on what part of vendor management you want to focus. So reporting is probably the one that's more easily and more easily connected to company's targets.
And usually includes the reporting includes what the numbers, like what the profit or the numbers action of the transaction, or
it can be about company margins. So purchase cost rather than company margin, because the margin is more
a vendor
exactly
manager is doing that. Okay.
Exactly. So the PM is taking care of the margin.
Yeah.
The VM is taking care of the purchase cost. So that's one thing. It might be related to the acceptance rate of your project. So how many times the translators say no to your projects.
Okay.
That's something I'm measuring, for example. I'm measuring the engagement of translators, meaning how much they invoice to us very, very, very easily, but that clearly shows whether a translator is working with us, on a regular basis or not.
Exactly.
But then I'm also running a survey to measure their overall satisfaction.
Wow.
And you can really feel the pulse of the translators team and how it's going. I give them a lot of phone calls. So it's difficult to say one way you measure
But that's
vendor
really interesting
management.
already. Yeah, that's really interesting already, the information that you've said. So if you're watching the replay or if you're live here with us and you would like to ask more about those positions, I assume Francesca and Giada will be at your disposal. You can contact, okay? And definitely the company we're discussing is creative-words.com. Is it correct?
Yes. Yes.
And the reason why ladies are here with us today, I'm always try to give a bit of a behind the scenes idea of how I organize that, because I really believe in networking in our industry. So Diego Crescieri, who is also the CEO of the company and also president of Elia together, and we met, I suppose, Diego, I have forgotten. So I think that we know each other for many years. So introduced and created and organized this with the help of Giada and Francesca. So amazing that it's just something I really, as a story, find also motivating people to actually start networking with other colleagues. You never know what opportunities that might end up. So to sum up, because we're closing like 53 minutes already live, one question for me would be, what is the difference of a community manager and vendor manager, and why you call yourself a community manager? And the last one, Francesca, if you would like to sum up the differences for those there watching, since that was the case of today's live. So what do you think? You would like to start, Giada, by describing what's
okay. Yes.
manager, why do you call yourself community manager? I couldn't hold myself since you mentioned that already.
So it wasn't me deciding on the name exactly, but it was together with Diego. As we share, no, I mean, because we really share the same idea of vendor management, and that's why I'm there, I think. So the main difference is that we're putting a lot of focus on building relationships with the community of our translators. So we don't trust transactional relationships with translators. We are nurturing the community with a lot of training, with a lot of direct contact, with a lot of opportunities to meet up, of course, virtually in the last few years, but still, that's why community manager. Because I'm more focused on the people than on numbers, if we may say so, although vendor management still holds an important part of numbers in it for how
Yeah,
focused on people you can be.
to be honest, when I had the term community manager, for me it includes also the social media and community in general, online through platforms. So I have an idea of that term that really applies to the overall community that a company has, but that's not the case.
No, we've got somebody who takes care of marketing and social media.
Exactly. But the community also comes there. You build a community as a company, and you have a great community as a company as well. So definitely, that really justifies the existence of another person as well to do this. Amazing. Thank you so much, Giada. That's really
Thank you,
informing. And I have
Virginia.
so many questions, but I don't have the time. We're already 55 minutes. I don't want people to feel overwhelmed. But definitely, guys, if you're watching the replay, if you have questions for Giada or Francesca, use the comments below or contact directly. Okay. We can share the details on how they would like ladies to be contacted. So if you have specific for vendor management questions, you can contact Giada. If you have specific for project management questions, you can contact Francesca. And if you would like to find an opportunity to work as a freelance translator with this specific company that has so great reviews from other colleagues, definitely we can share the details in the comments. So to sum up, Francesca, would you like to say a few words like briefly, like how we can describe that, the main differences between those two roles in your opinion?
Well, I would say that to really sum it up, that project managers are usually more focused on the client side, while vendor managing is more directed towards the, let's say, external community of freelancers or people working with us. The two roles actually are, I mean, we work together with both people, I mean, with both clients and vendors, but in a different way. I mean, we, as project managers, are the direct contact of the end clients, while the vendor manager takes care of the first contacts with the freelancers, for example, the community. So I would say that the main difference is this one. And as project managers, we actually manage projects. So we take care of all the steps of a translation project. And in many of those steps, the vendor manager is directly or indirectly involved. As Giada was saying, we have like a TMS where all the details about the freelancers are uploaded and always updated. And this actually helps the project managers during their daily job. So there are points in common, but I would say the main difference is that we, as project managers, are, I mean, we are, I would say that our main goal is to keep the clients happy. And by doing that, we need the help of the vendor manager, who is also doing other things with the external community, of
And
course.
he's trying, or she is trying right now in such a case, to keep translators satisfied and happy.
Yeah.
So very, in a draft way. So Giada, do you agree? Is there anything else you would like to add as a main difference between the two roles?
No, I agree. I mean, they're completely different. So, so I totally agree with what Francesca said.
you say they're completely different, but as I started the discussion, there are people who do not know, and especially because of a small company, usually project manager undertakes the role of vendor management, and vendor manager is really sometimes complicated to understand. It's not that clearly in our minds that those are very two different roles, and that's why we're having the discussion today.
Yeah.
Some people, they think that they're supportive roles, or one role support the other, or might be integrated in one other role. So definitely for me, the sense of having such a discussion today is actually to really make sure that people understand the difference, and to understand also the value that brings into one company, one role and the other. That's really important. And of course, to motivate people who would like to undertake such roles in the future as on a freelance basis or in-house, definitely to have you as a role model, or to have an idea of what does this role include and how does this look like in a real life that you just described to us. So is there anything else would you like to add to the discussion before we end, Francesca or Giada?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
no.
if anybody has any questions, I think we will be happy to help. So,
how would you like to be contacted? Via email? We can share your email. So else how would you like to be contacted?
yeah, I think so. Or LinkedIn or the email works fine, I think.
So you can find ladies on LinkedIn. You will find all the full names and bios and the description box of the tribe. So all the information is there as well. LinkedIn and email that you will find also on the professional website of the company they're working, creative-words.com. Diego Creschieri, thank you so much for helping us to organize this. Giada and Francesca, it was such a pleasure and honor to have you here. I wish we had that would be a whole day event, like discussing the roles and more details. But definitely, I think we gave an overview of the roles, and definitely we mentioned some of the differences, the value that you provide to a company, and your everyday routine and tasks and responsibilities. So I think that would be really informative to the people who are watching us, either the replay or live, to actually find out more about the roles, to feel motivated if they would like to make any change in their careers. You never know, or if they're starting out, to actually have a better idea of what each role actually insists of. And if you can share also, Jad, any resources you've shared in the comments, that would be really helpful to the people who are watching us, just to go there and check them out. So thank you so much once again. Thank you, ladies. Have a great evening in
Thank you,
Italy.
Virginia.
And thank you, Giada. Thank you, Francesca. And thank you, Diego. And thank you, all of you. You were here over an hour live with us. Thank you so much. If you come up with any kind of questions, or if you're watching the replay, we would love to answer your questions. Francesca and Giada are members of the Mentoring for Translators group, or you can contact them directly. So thank you once again, all of you. And see you soon. So you stay here with me, ladies, okay?
Okay.
So bye-bye all.